everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lloyd's Restaurant Tips and Tricks. You like that title? I came up with that all by myself. Restaurant Tips and Tricks. Because remember, at the end of the day, with all of these videos, what we're after is restaurant quality food that you could do at home. How to make it beautiful and how to have a lot of fun while doing it. So today, beautiful day outside, nice and warm, something light, something fun, something slightly health conscious. We're going to take some chicken breasts, cut them open, and stuff them. We're going to stuff chicken breasts today with some homemade basil pesto, some prosciutto to bring out some flavor, and cheese, of course, because as I said last week, I love cheese. So let's start at the beginning. Let's make some pesto from scratch. You don't have to do that, okay? You can buy pesto at the grocery store. There's fabulous pestos out there that are already made. You can just scoop it out of the jar and have your way with it. If you want to make it from scratch though, I'm going to show you how to do it. So I've laid out everything that we need. It is extremely easy to make pesto. Basil, garlic, pine nuts, Parmesan cheese, olive oil. Done. How much of each one? You know what? There's all kinds of recipes out there. 3 cups of this to a 1/4 cup of this to a 1/2 cup of that. The flavors change. It's up to you. How do you want it to taste? What do you want it to taste like? I have a ratio that I like, that my wife likes, and that's way more important anyway. So that's why I got the ratio down. So the way we're going to do it today is we're going to take a 1.5 cups of fresh basil leaves, 3 cloves of chopped garlic, a 1/4 cup of toasted pine nuts, a 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and 3/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. We're going to blend all that together and make pesto. And that's it. And I'm going to show you how to do it. It is extremely easy. Do you have one of these at home? Do you have a food processor? Do you have a blender? Do you have a burr mixer? Who knows what a burr mixer is? Okay, be honest. No? Okay. That's all you need. If you have a blender, you're set. That's all you need. But you want to carefully pulse it all together. You don't want to just dump it all in and just turn the blender on and walk away because you're just going to get a big bowl of mush. You don't want a big bowl of mush. We're going to do it in steps, okay? This is my own little food processor that we have at home, and it's all I need. I don't need it to be special. So I've got my fresh basil leaves here. I've already cut them up. See? That's about a cup, right? It's about a cup, huh? I'm going to dump those in all around. Yeah? See? Okay, let's add a few more. I love the smell of basil. I told you last week, I love the smell of fresh herbs, fresh produce. I love those smells. Everything is so clean. Everything is so natural. I took the basil and just put it in by itself. I'm not putting anything else in it. And I'm just going to give it a couple of quick zerps. See? Just getting it started. Done. If you were on your blender, click it, click it, click it, click it, done. I've started to chop things up. See, I haven't even really done anything yet. See, nothing. Just moving it around. I'm letting it break up into pieces. Taking my garlic. I'm going to dump the garlic in. So you got fresh garlic in there, fresh basil in there, and some of my pine nuts. See, I took pine nuts, and they're regular raw pine nuts. I put them on a baking sheet with a 1/4 teaspoon of olive oil, and then a dash of black pepper, and a pinch of kosher salt. I have learned that one of my pinches, that's a 1/4 teaspoon. So depending on the size of your hands, your pinch might be a little less or a little more, but that's really all you need. I put them in the oven at 350 for not even 10 minutes, and they came out toasty. And it just changes the flavor. So just put some in. Let's just get started. Put a little bit in at a time. So I put some of that in here, and I'm going to pulse it. it's all starting to break up slowly. That's a fun sound. There, we've broken some up. See? Look at that. Look, 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 look. What do you see? How cool is that? Huh? It's starting to get kind of mushy and gooey together. I love it. Oh, that is such a cool nutty smell. Now, let's take some Parmesan and just dump it in. All right, I'll put a few more pine nuts. There. This is going to be really, really nutty flavor. And I like that nutty flavor. Let's give it a few more pulses. Huh? Now, look at that. How cool is that? Huh? It's dry, right? But everything is obviously crunching together. Now, what I can't do with this, that you would be able to do with a blender, is what's called streaming in the olive oil. A little stream of olive oil. I can't do that because of the way my little food processor is put together. So I'm going to pour a little bit in now, blend it, take it off, pour a little bit more. But you would want to stream it. So you would basically slowly pour it in as everything is mixing. Just a little bit for me for now, because we're going to get it to blend and emulsify together. So it's going to start to get liquidy, pasty, if you will. And I'm going to show you how this process is going. See, I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. There we go. A smart move, always have a spatula nearby. Move things around. Get it back in there. Oh, wow. You hear that? Yes, 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 yes. Here, I'm going to show you. Look at that. Huh? You see how it's kind of getting gooey? Yes. That's what we're after. Pesto is a sauce, right? It's a sticky, pasty, gooey sauce. So I've added my last little bit of olive oil. Did you hear everything I just said? You didn't? Well, then you just missed the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say anything. But obviously, I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, pesto. I mean, like voila, you know, pesto, get it? No? Okay. Anyway, the pesto's done. This is the pesto sauce that we are going to use to make our pesto stuffed chicken. Yeah? So the next thing we're going to do is cut up and get our chicken ready to be stuffed. Let me just get this out of here so you can see what we're working with. Oh, wow. That's so cool. See, you really got to have fun with this. Cooking is a blast. It's a lot of fun. You just have to enjoy it. I mean, right now, again, you can't smell this, and that's a shame, because this is an amazing smell. It's kind of toasty, pine nutty, you know, so it's slightly sweet, but then you've got the freshness from the basil. Huh? Oh, I love that smell. It's so cool. It's so much fun. 12 years ago, when my wife and I met, I had a hammer and a Leatherman. Those were the only tools I had. And every kitchen appliance known to man, because I just got a kick out of buying them and playing with them and making stuff. And we end up with that. How cool is that, huh? A friend of mine taught me how to do this 20 years ago when I was working at a restaurant in Florida. And we wanted something different to eat that day because it was a Polynesian-themed restaurant. And that's not what we felt like eating. So he goes, you know what? I'm making pesto. And I went, awesome. How? And he showed me how to do that. And I've been doing the same thing ever since. And it comes out like that every time. The cool thing about pesto, you don't have to practice. You really can't mess that up. because if you don't like the way that tastes, add some more basil, add some more cheese. If you want it to be more liquid, add some more oil. That's all you got to do. It's all about your taste. There's really no right or wrong. It's up to what you like and what you don't like. So we've got our pesto. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut open our chicken. All right, here we go. So we're ready now. Next step, we've got our fresh pesto. It's time to stuff our chicken, okay? First thing I did, always make sure, preheat your oven, because you don't want to wait for that, because it's annoying. Set the oven on 400. The heat's not that high. It's high enough, though, to keep the chicken cooking, not at a slow pace, but not too fast so it doesn't dry out. So the oven is preheated. It's ready to go. It's set at 400 degrees. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this chicken ready to stuff. So the first thing you want to do is you have your chicken breasts. I always, I buy chicken and then I'm always trimming more off because, again, Lloyd's restaurant tips and tricks. I want it to look restaurant quality. I want it to look perfect. So I will continue to trim, cut, shave just to make it look as perfect as I can make it. So I've got my chicken breast and I'm going to, if you notice, I put it on its own little cutting board because, ladies and gentlemen, we're dealing with raw chicken. You don't want to mix raw chicken with anything. So I gave it its own cutting board. I have its own dedicated knife, own dedicated everything. In my arsenal, if you will, of cutlery, this little guy is hands down the sharpest knife I have, and it's my favorite for doing things like this because it'll cut with ease. You don't want to force. You don't want to make the knife struggle. Let the knife do the work, okay? I'm not forcing the knife's going to do it, and the only way to do that is to make sure that it's nice and sharp. You never want to cut yourself, obviously, but you really don't want to cut yourself with a dull knife. It hurts. So let's get our chicken ready to stuff. So we're going to cut a pocket. I'm going to make a pocket in the chicken, okay? So all I'm doing, I'm just letting the knife do the work. I'm not pushing. See my little smiley face? Well, I can open her up just a little bit and then cut some more. See, it's slowly starting to open. And I'm not forcing. I'm not pushing hard. See? Done. Look at that. See? I know. It's an open pocket. Put that aside and cut the next one. Now, again, little cuts, nice and easy, allowing the knife to do the work itself and open it up to make a pocket. Now I'm going to do this on purpose because I want to give you your tip of the day. Have you ever stuffed chicken before? Come on, yes you have. Everybody has. Have you ever cut too much where you now have a hole? Have you ever done that? That's ridiculous, because now you have to worry about everything you're going to stuff in going out the other end. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to show you how to stop that from happening. First of all, I'm going to touch something else. I'm going to wash my hands. So, wash my hands. Make sure they're clean. Hands are clean. Now today when we do this chicken, we're going to be baking it. Baking dish. So I'm going to take a little olive oil, put it in my dish. Trust me, I haven't skipped a step. This is all on purpose. Paper towel and just wipe it around. So now I've got olive oil everywhere. Nothing's going to stick, everything's going to taste good, smell good. I'm going to take my piece of chicken that's got the hole in it, because who wants that? But it happens all the time. You're not always going to find thick pieces of chicken to cook with. So a thinner piece, you very well might end up with a hole. Well, I don't want everything to leak out of the hole. So I'm going to take, you caught me, right? I touched the chicken, so now I got to wash my hands again. I'm going to get a spoon. I'm going to take some breadcrumbs. If you have seasoned breadcrumbs at home, great. If you have plain breadcrumbs at home, great. This has nothing to do with flavor. This is a trick to fill the hole that's in that chicken. I'm going to take a little bit of breadcrumbs and dump them in the hole. There. You see that? You see that? Just a little tiny bit of breadcrumbs to fill the hole. As this chicken cooks with everything stuffed inside of it, those breadcrumbs are also going to cook and form like a little crust. Boom, I just filled my hole. When I take the chicken out later and put it on the plate, nothing's going to fall out because it's got a nice little crust sealed on the bottom. Purely aesthetics, you know, just for fun, because I want it to look perfect when it comes out of the dish and goes onto the plate. I just filled the hole. Wasn't that worth watching? So let's keep going with what we're doing. We're stuffing chicken. First of all, I've got my pesto that we just made. I've got some pieces of prosciutto, and I've got cheese. I chose Muenster cheese because, well, frankly, I really like Muenster cheese. I like the flavor, I like the consistency, and it's different. It's not your, you know, you could stuff this with mozzarella, which might seem traditional because it's pesto, so mozzarella cheese, but I'm not about being traditional, I'm about being different, and I want it to be good, and I want it to be fun. So I'm gonna just stray a little bit. So I've got some slices of Muenster cheese. I'm gonna take a piece of this Muenster cheese, and I'm gonna lay it in the chicken. Okay, one whole piece. Now, to really change the flavor of what we're doing and add to it, add some saltiness, add some pizzazz, if you will, we're going to take prosciutto. Really nice, thinly sliced prosciutto. I'm going to take a piece of it and roll it up and stick it in my cheese. I've got my prosciutto. It's in the cheese. I'm going to take my pesto, man, that is beautiful stuff, and I'm going to put some in here. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not too worried about getting anything anywhere because I'm not using this pesto for anything else. It is solely for this chicken. So I've got the pesto in, I've got the prosciutto in, I've got the cheese in. This, if you notice, I'm just using a spoon. This is not a measuring spoon. But for measuring purposes, because we are trying to learn a recipe with specific ingredients, tablespoon of pesto. That's that equivalent. 1 tablespoon. Once it's all in, I'm just going to fold it over. And as I'm folding like this, I'm pushing back into the chicken. So I'm pushing everything in. Okay? What the pesto is going to do with the cheese as it's cooking is form a seal. Do you see that? Look at that. And guess what? We're not done yet. So let's take the other piece of chicken. Let's put it in. There's no hole. This is a well-cut piece. Put that in. Grab our cheese. Put it in. Grab our prosciutto. Roll it up, put it in, right? And grab our pesto, which, like I said, about 1.5 of these is 1 tablespoon because I measured it earlier. And fold and push, fold and push. Folding and pushing back, forming a little seal. There. Now, rinsing this off and washing your hands because you've been playing with chicken, and that's, as my daughter would say, yucky. Nobody likes raw food, unfortunately, because they think it's yucky, at least when they're 6 years old. And it's not yucky, it just hasn't been cooked yet. So give it a break, you know? She doesn't listen, but it's all right. Now, last but not least, let's give this something before it goes into the oven. I took some breadcrumbs and went ahead and seasoned them myself because I didn't have any seasoned breadcrumbs at home. I have plain breadcrumbs, so I've got to make them seasoned. I took garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, dumped it all in a bowl with some breadcrumbs, 1 tablespoon of grated Parmesan cheese, and I took some parsley and put it in there for color. If you remember from last week's video, the one herb that I feel should always come into the house and be fresh and freshly cut, parsley. Love the way it looks, love the way it smells. That freshness cannot be mimicked. So I got some fresh parsley, I put it in here with these breadcrumbs, mixed it all together, and all I'm going to do is put a little bit on top like that. That's it. That's just to give it some crunch, some pizzazz. Huh? Pesto stuffed chicken with some prosciutto hidden inside for pizzazz. Now, we're going to put this in the oven, 400 degrees, I'd say 25 to 30 minutes. And as it goes in, if you don't have one, everybody should. You should always have a nice meat thermometer in the house. They don't have to be expensive. You can get them anywhere. Digital, analog, whatever you want to use. I have a digital one. I've been doing this, ladies and gentlemen, since I was 14 years old, and I have no problem sticking a thermometer in meat to make sure that it's cooked. Because we want to get at least, what, 165 degrees. Can I eyeball that? Sure. Can I do it by touching it? Sure. But I want to be safe. So to make sure, I'll take the thermometer, stick it into the thickest part of the chicken, make sure it gets up to 165, and then I know it's done. So if you have one, please use it. If you don't have one, go get one. There's nothing embarrassing about it. Quite frankly, there isn't a kitchen in the world that doesn't have one. Chicken's cooking. I made some orecchiette pasta. And I just want to make like a light little side dish, you know, nothing fancy. Less is more. But I still want it to look great, and I want it to taste fantastic. So we're going to take sun-dried tomatoes. Aren't those pretty? Oh, I love that smell. Fresh basil. Combine it with some olive oil and salt and pepper and call it a day. That's it. So here's a tip. Do you guys like that when I'm giving tips? Isn't it? I mean, that's what I was hoping for. So I thought that'd be fun to give you a tip. So let's have a tip. Basil, fresh basil. I took the leaves, obviously, and I pulled the stems. For those of you who don't know, of all the leafy greens you can play with in your kitchen, this might be the most delicate, if not the most delicate, one of the most delicate greens you can play with, cook with, work with. So you really don't want to manhandle it. You want to be as delicate as possible. I'm going to show you how to cut it so that, one, you get that visual appeal that we're after, because we want, like I said last week, for it to look beautiful, because people what? They eat with their eyes. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You were listening. That's so cool. Yeah, people eat with their eyes. So I want it to look beautiful. In order for it to look beautiful, I've got to do it right. It's really not hard. It's not that much of a trick. But take your basil. You can take, like I have 3 pieces. Just put them on top of each other as best as you can. And fold them over. Now, I'm not pushing hard. I'm not cramming them. I'm just rolling them up. See? Huh? I rolled them up. That's it, 3 pieces. It's nice rolled into a cocoon type cigar shape. Take your knife. Remember, I'm not pushing hard. I'm not mashing. Sharp knife, knife does the work. I'm just going to lightly cut. That's it. Made some spirals. See? I've got my fresh cut basil, and when you cut herb like that, the flavor just releases, and now everything right here smells like basil. It's such a great smell. I love basil. You know, I love all this, the freshness. So let's take some pasta while we're buying time. A little bit of al dente cooked orecchiette pasta. Okay. Now, some people cook their pasta with salt in the water, you know, nice salt water bath to cook your pasta. Some people just cook the pasta in the hot water, and then when it's done and they dump it in the colander and they get all the water out, they toss some olive oil in there and mix it up with olive oil to give it some flavor, give it some consistency. I didn't really do anything. I did cook it with salt water, but I haven't put any olive oil in there because, quite frankly, I'm going to mix it with olive oil. So I don't need to white double dip. But, so, we've got our pasta. I am going to take some olive oil. I don't need that much, really. One thing I do when I'm cooking, so I make my wife her dish first because, well, of course I'm going to serve my wife first. And then I'll make mine. But I'm not going to mix a big bowl of this and then do it. Yeah, okay, so I'm doing it the long way, whatever. But I'm going to mix hers, plate hers, and then plate mine because I want it to be perfect every time. So for one portion, if you will, okay, this might be my size portion, but we'll still say it's for her. Pour a little olive oil, maybe a teaspoon. Teaspoon-ish. Teaspoon of olive oil, and move it around. Get it all over the pasta. Because number one, you want everything to stick. The olive oil will help it stick. And number two, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, all by itself, has a great flavor. It has a light, refreshing flavor. So get it everywhere. You don't want one clump full of olive oil and then the rest bland. So we get some olive oil all over. I've got some fresh coarse ground black pepper and a little dash of pepper. That's less than a quarter of a teaspoon, I promise. I told you, I measured my pinches. Who measures pinches? I did. A nice heaping pinch, that's a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. That might seem like a lot. It's not. Salt and pepper. Mixing it up. See? You know what we need for this? We need a clear bowl so you can see what I'm doing. Write that down. We need a clear bowl. I'm by myself. It's cool. I'll just remember to buy clear bowls so you all can see what I'm doing. But see, salt and pepper, olive oil. All I got. Sun-dried tomatoes. I like these, okay? So I'm not measuring it. I'm just throwing a bunch of pieces in because I love these. I like the way I like the flavor. I like the way they taste. I love the texture of them. I think the way they look is awesome. But look, see? I'm mixing them all together because when you mix it all and let it get in there and let the flavors kind of play with each other. Let it come together. See, we're giving it some life. Plain old pasta that we're giving some life. Huh? I'm doing this on purpose. Trust me, there's method to my madness. Where did you come from? Go away. Now, if you can't tell, I like color. We have all kinds of colored dishes because I think it's fun. In my own mind, it livens everything up. And sometimes you don't need to be lively, but we're going to liven things up today. So I'm going to take and plate the pasta. And the very last thing I'm going to do before I do this is put the basil in. Because if you remember what I said, basil is very delicate. You have to be careful with it. I can't go mixing everything together really hard with the basil inside because it'll crinkle up and start to change color and it doesn't look so good. So I put the basil in and give it a little mix. That's it. That's all I did. I'm going to take this and dump it on the plate ever so slowly so that the heavy pasta is on the bottom. And the color is on the top. You see that? Look at that. Huh? Red, green, love it. Feels like Christmas, but it's not. There. That part's done. That part looks gorgeous. It's nice and hot. It's ready to eat. All we need now is chicken. Ah. It's not ready yet, I promise. But we're almost there. So while that's still going, we've got my pasta done. We need to have a finishing touch because remember we're making restaurant quality food. And believe it or not, before food leaves the kitchen, everywhere, there's somebody giving it one last look over before it goes out. Is it what you ordered? Is it cooked correctly? Is it plated properly? And lastly, does it look beautiful? Those are the four things we're looking for before it leaves the kitchen. And I try to do the same thing at home before it hits the table because I want it to look gorgeous. One, because I think it's fun, so I make a whole little game with myself in my head about how beautiful I want it to look before it gets in front of my wife. And two, with children, my children, one of them in particular, if it doesn't look right, he's not going to eat it. So I got to make it look perfect, exactly to his preference. But for my wife and I just like to make it look beautiful. So I'm taking some fresh parsley, since I've got a few minutes, and I'm going to chop it up, and that'll be our little garnish flair at the end. There's no real trick to this, folks. Just chop it up. Keep chopping. As you chop, it gets smaller. That's what you're after, is nice, small pieces. And if you remember what I said last time, rinse it and then let it sit for a while so it dries out. Because if it's not dry, it gets all sticky and gummy and it doesn't fall on the plate right. I had to think about how to say that, fall on the plate right. But that is what's going to happen because I'm just going to drop it and it's going to fall. So I'm chopping it up really small. Why does he keep moving it all over the chopping board? Well, to be honest with you, I'm trying to keep it bunched and move it out of the way. So it's all bunched up together and now it's out of the way. Huh? You like that trick? Obviously I'm left-handed, so it goes that way. All right, I'm done with that. It's time to check our chicken. We did it at 400 degrees, so it's taken some time, which was the point. Whoa, yes. You hear that? Yeah. See? How cool is that? And it's hot, very hot. I'm not even gonna put it on directly on the counter because I don't wanna, well, I don't know why, but I'm just not gonna do it. I'm making sure. Rising, rising, 160, 161, 163, 167. I don't care after that because it's done. Chicken's done. Turn the oven off. All right, let's plate. Let's make it the finished product. Now, just so you know, This piece of chicken right here, that's the one that we made the pocket in the bottom and put the breadcrumbs to make the little seal. Scooping it out. Right smack in the middle, because it is the centerpiece of our dish. And if you look in here, can you see that? There's nothing there. The breadcrumb pocket made a crust. Last but not least, remember the parsley that we made all chopped up in the corner? A rather nice sized pinch, and drop it on like that. See ya. That's lunch. Huh? Pesto stuffed chicken, sun-dried tomato basil, orecchiette pasta. Beautiful. I'm so ready to eat. Couple of things to leave you with. Don't forget, basil's delicate, so be gentle. Don't forget to time this right. So put the chicken in the oven and let it go for a while, because it's going to take, what, 30 minutes? You don't need to make your pasta right away. I made it early because I wanted you to see it, but do it later in the process. It takes, what, 7-8 minutes to boil pasta and get it nice al dente, at least that type of pasta. If you make it too early, it's fine. Put it in the pot, cover it with foil. That'll work. That'll keep it warm. Mix it the way you want it. Cover it with foil. Put it in a microwave just to keep it warm. You can heat it up in the microwave a little tiny bit if you want to get it hot. But otherwise, make it on the latter side. You could even let the chicken sit for a few minutes while you finish your pasta, because obviously it's not going anywhere, and it's going to need to cool down a little bit before you eat it anyway. So make the pasta later, because it doesn't take as long. Basil is gentle. Pasta doesn't take as long. And lastly, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it with your friends and neighbors and people you don't know. And don't forget to subscribe to my page if you have not already done so. That way you can get the notifications. Follow along with me on this journey of making delicious food as the seasons continue. And let's have fun and do it together. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Take care.